And there's a strip back there for you to plug back. Okay.
Kind of like.
Now I can play for like this. Problem. It is basic. So many. Yeah. And you can't download it.
Yeah. Right there.
She just nicely worded.
No, that's just my concern. Like, I gotta get an amendment. So we can try this.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. She's still.
Okay, so 7 o'clock, we're going to call to work this meeting of the Warwick Township Zoning Hearing Board, so if I could all have their attention, please. We have a couple of items on our agenda this evening. The first one is the application of Mr. Brad Byrne, docket number CHB 25-04. Apparently, Mr. Byrne's attorney is ill, and asked for a continuation until our next meeting. So, can we open this?
Yes.
So we're going to open the hearing. And we're going to recognize the application for continuance has been issued. Correct? And so then, at this point, I'd like to hear a motion to agree to the requested continuance. Have a motion? So moved. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, the next item on our agenda this evening is the application of Warminster Township Municipal. This is docket CHB 25-05. The property known as Stover Street, no address given. In the township, tax map parcel number 51-014-241. MF1 multi-family residential zone. The application requests the following relief. Special exception from section 195-36 for capital C for an 81 utility public service use. Variation from section 195-16 capital E parenthesis 1 and parenthesis lowercase a and parenthesis 2 in parenthesis. Permit the new TFK as equipment building, front yard setback 90 feet, or 100 feet required. allow side yards of 30 feet and 25 feet for 100 feet is required. A variance for section 195, that's 61, parentheses, lowercase b, parentheses, parentheses 2, parentheses, a, parentheses, to allow improvements including a driveway, underground piping, fencing, the potential future stormwater facility to serve lands within the floodplain limits which will not meet the resource protection ratio of 1.00. Variance for section 195-60, parentheses, A, and parentheses, 5, and parentheses, lowercase g, and parentheses. And section 195-61, parentheses, capital P, and parentheses, 2, and parentheses, lowercase a, parentheses. To allow additional paved driveway and parking areas in riparian border conservation district zone 2, in addition to those areas already in existence, not meet the resource protection ratio of 1.00. And variance for section 195-60, parentheses, capital K, and parentheses, 4, and parentheses, lowercase b, and parentheses, 2, and parentheses, lowercase f, and parentheses. And section 195-61, parentheses, capital B, and parentheses, 2, parentheses, lowercase a, and parentheses. To allow placement of an unnaturalized surface stormwater management facility, riparian corridor conservation district 2, if required by the township, which will not meet the resource protection ratio. Ms. Cruz, I'm going to turn it over to you this time.
Thank you. I have some exhibits to enter into the record. Board Exhibit 1 is the zoning hearing board application of attachments received by the township. Board 2 is proof of publication from the Intelligencer for advertising notice on June 17th and June 24th of the hearing scheduled for this evening. A letter dated June 10th, Board 3 is a letter dated June 10th to Attorney Robert Nemeroff, applicant's attorney from myself, advising the tonight's hearing date. B4 is a resident mailing certification dated June 16th, sent by Tom Jones, the Warwick Township zoning officer, and a copy of the list of property owners who were notified. B5 is a property posting notification by Tom Jones, zoning officer, dated June 16, 2025. Obviously, we have a crowd here this evening, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about how the procedure works. This is a formal hearing. We have the stenographer next to me who is taking down literally every word that everyone says. So please do not talk over each other. Please do not talk over the witnesses or the other side. If you are in disagreement with something that they said, please keep it to yourself. You will be given an opportunity to respond. There are 2 ways that you can participate in the hearing this evening. At the end of the applicant's case, we will take what's called public comment, which anybody can make public comment. It's just comment and your thoughts and suggestions maybe, or what you find wrong with the applicant's case. The second way to participate is to become what we call a party. If you become a party, you will be entitled to cross-examine the applicant's witnesses. You will be entitled to present your own witnesses, and you will be entitled to get a copy of the decision when it is issued by the board. In order to be a party, you need to be someone who is interested in the case. In order to establish that, we will ask you to put your name on the record along with your address and let us know whether or not you received a copy of this evening who wants to be a party to the proceeding. Okay, let me start here. Okay, sir, what's your name?
My name's on the report that you have right there.
I need you to say it for the record for the court reporter.
Vadim Levitz, VADIMLEVITZ,
And what is your address?
914 Clover Place.
And did you receive the letter from the township for the hearing this evening?
Yes.
Mr. Demerol, do you have any questions about his ability to be a party?
No, I don't.
Okay, you will become a party then, sir. Thank you. Anybody else on this side of the room? Okay, let's go to this side. I saw a couple hands. Yes, sir.
Nicholas Stiglitz, 976 Beechwood Place, Warminster, Pennsylvania.
What can you do me a favor? Spell your last name for me.
S as in Sierra, T as in Tango, I as in Indigo, G as in Gamma, L as in Lion, I as in Indigo, T as in Tango, and Z as in Zebra.
Thank you. And did you receive a letter from the township about the hearing this evening?
I did not.
Okay, could you tell us in relation to this property about the distance from there to where you reside?
maybe 150 yards.
But you did not get a notice from the township?
No, not.
Okay,
Be the place.
okay. Mr. Nemiroff, do you have any questions with regard to his ability to be a party? Okay, sir, you will be a party. Anyone else? Okay, let me go back over here. Yes, sir. What's your name?
Stephen Hungerford, Hungerford, 900 Clover Place, Warminster, Pennsylvania, 18974.
Okay, and did you receive a copy of the
Yes,
letter?
I did.
Okay, Mr. Nemiroff, any questions on his ability to be a party?
No question.
Okay, thank you.
One more question. I'm having a hard time hearing. Are those microphones working at all?
I don't know what we'll try.
It's just, I'm sorry, I'm hearing.
Is that better? No.
Gotta turn the button.
Now,
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
thank you.
Okay, I saw another hand. Yes, sir.
Yeah, William Cave, CAVE, 1004 Gates Place, Warminster, PA.
And did you receive a copy of the letter? Okay, could you tell us about how far away from the property you are?
2 blocks,
Okay,
1 block over from Beechwood.
any questions? You'll accept him as a party? Okay, sir, you will be a party as well. Anyone else? Okay, so the way this will work now is I'm gonna turn the application over to Mr. Nemiroff. He's gonna present his case on behalf of the applicant. As he gets done, questioning each of his witnesses, we'll ask the board if they have questions, we'll ask our parties if they have any questions, and then at the full conclusion of his case, we'll also ask for public comment at the very end. Sir, I believe that you wanted to make a request of the board before we got started, or,
No, let's proceed.
okay, fine. I'm sorry, that was, Mr. Levitz who said that. Okay, can we have your witnesses sworn? Who's gonna testify this evening? Yes, it's Bob Nemiroff, I'm sorry.
How do you spell?
N is in Nancy, EN is in Mary, ER, OFF is in Frank.
Thank you.
And who are you gonna have testifying this evening?
First witness will be Timothy Hagee, the general manager of the Warminster Township Municipal Authority. Second witness will be Rick Getz, of CPS Engineers.
And can we have both of them sworn in, please?
raise your right hand, please. Swear from the testimony you're about to say is the truth, all the truth, nothing but the
I did.
And if we could have you both come up to the microphone so everyone can hear you. I think
What they do, may I make some opening remarks?
you may, yes.
All right, thank you. Members of the board, members of the public, good evening. As you've heard, my name is Robert Nemiroff, and I represent the Warminster Township Municipal Authority in connection with the pending zoning application before the board this evening. More specifically, the authority is seeking zoning relief in connection with its desire to demolish the existing well house at the well 37 site located or situated at tax map parcel number 51-014-241 and replace that with a larger well house reoriented, as you will hear later from the witnesses, principally to afford the authority the ability to install not only the chlorination system that exists in the existing well house, but perhaps more importantly, and in addition, a filtering system to remove PFAS compounds from the contaminated groundwater that gets pumped out of that well. The authority is a water and sewer authority. It distributes water to its customers and it provides sanitary sewage services to its customers, which include, in part, the residents of the Stover Mill Townhome development here in Warwick Township. The authority acquired the right to do so back in 1977 pursuant to a tri-party agreement among the authority, Warwick Township, and the developer of the Stover Mill development. That agreement was signed prior to that development being built. And that agreement will be part of our exhibit submission in this case. In 1985, the authority acquired TMP number 51014241 from the Stover Mill Homeowners Association under the terms of a 1985 agreement, which will also be part of our exhibit submission. Well 37 is located on that tax map parcel that I've indicated. It is part of a groundwater, a subsurface groundwater system of wells from which water is being supplied, has been supplied by the Warminster, and I'll refer to the Warminster Township Authority as the authority. So water has been supplied by the authority from that well until the authority learned initially in 2014 that its entire groundwater well system was contaminated with PFAS compounds, commonly referred to as forever chemicals, which emanated from the former Naval Air Warfare Center in Warminster, where AFFF firefighting foam was regularly being used to extinguish fuel fires from aircraft, United States Navy aircraft that were either landing at that facility or that were being used as practice to put out such fires. The firefighting foam contained PFAS compounds, which once on the ground, leached into the ground, into the aquifer, and ultimately infiltrating the entire groundwater well system of the authority, including well 37. In response, the authority took their entire groundwater system offline between 2014 and 2016, including well 37. And instead of providing subsurface groundwater, the authority entered into an arrangement with the North Wales Water Authority to purchase surface water, uncontaminated surface water, so as not to distribute contaminated water to its customers. And to this day, the authority is providing uncontaminated, relatively uncontaminated surface water from the North Wales Water Authority. But the reason we're here this evening is because the authority wishes to restore the functionality of its groundwater wells by installing PFAS removal systems, filtering systems, if you will, at each of its wells, including well 37. In the case of well 37, this involves demolishing the existing well house and constructing a new well house that's large enough to house not only the well itself and the facilities that enable the operation of the well, including the chlorination system, but also the PFAS filtering system. The existing well house is not large enough for that purpose. And to do so, the authority requires relief from the zoning requirements, including an ongoing special exception, which was previously obtained for this site for well 37 many years ago. And of course, that site has been operating as a well site for the last 27 years as a special exception, as well as variances from the front and side yard setback requirements of the ordinance, which will be addressed more specifically by Mr. Getz, the consulting engineer for the authority, when it is his chance to testify. And as well as variances from the resource and natural resource protection ratio for the floodplain and the riparian corridor. And that's why we're here this evening. Mr. Hagee will be my first witness, and he will discuss at some length some of the history that I've alluded to very briefly in my opening statement, followed by Mr. Getz, who will address more specifically using the plan that he has created and photographs that he has taken, which will also be displayed and submitted as exhibits about the specific zoning requirements, the zoning relief that's needed, and most importantly, the reasons why the configuration and the characteristics of the lot itself create a hardship for the authority in complying with the specific existing zoning requirements. And with the board's permission, I'll call my first witness. Now, with the board prefer that I submit our exhibit packet now, or would you prefer that I wait until after the testimony's been completed?
I think we would prefer before the testimony.
Very good.
Are the parties allowed to see these exhibits as well?
Yes,
Okay, can we?
yes. Once he hands out the ones up here, I'll ask them to hand them out to you guys as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Member, what do you do, Mr. Frank, just give us a few minutes of standing time.
Absolutely.
Do you have more copies for our parties?
I have one additional copy, which
Do you?
I can certainly share with you.
Okay, so maybe you can confer with the gentleman on your side, and then can we have another one for the gentleman on this side?
Happy to move on. Well, I guess.
Yeah, I'll-
I'd like to plans and-
Maybe we can have a
people that much than us.
line.
You guys look at it first, by all means.
Everybody hear me, by the way?
Thank you. Everybody.
Would the board prefer that Mr. Hagan remain seated or stand next to me? It's preference.
However, it doesn't really matter as long as he projects his voice enough that the entire room can hear.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Hagan, by whom are you employed?
I'm employed by the Warminster Township Municipal.
In what capacity?
I'm the general manager.
And how long have you held that position?
Can everybody hear me?
How long-
I've held that position since 2005. That was my 20.
Generally, what are your responsibilities as the general manager?
I'm the chief administrative officer.
And what are the services provided by the authority?
The authority provides water, wastewater, stormwater in Warminster Township, and we have a newly division of construction.
Now, as far as the water that the authority distributes, historically, what has been the source of that?
Historically, our water source has been groundwater. We've got great groundwater well system. Historic.
How many wells make up that system?
Currently, we have 7.
Is well 37 part of that system?
Yes,
Okay, and where is well 37 located?
at the intersection. Overly. So
You heard me refer to PFAS compounds. Very well. Can you share with us what are PFAS compounds?
PFAS compounds are per and poly oral alkyl substances.
Per and poly.
Oral alkyl.
ALKYL,
Apple.
alkyl. Okay, and what is the source of those PFAS compounds with respect to the groundwater system that the authority operates?
Those substances, primarily PFOS and PFOA, for polyphenols are compounds of HFF
When were they first discovered?
2014.
And how many wells within the authority's groundwater well system were contaminated? What steps were taken by the authority in response to that contamination?
We immediately took 2 wells offline. The limits have changed over time. 2 of those wells were over the limit. And took those wells off immediately in 2014. Took another well off shortly thereafter. We had to do valving changes and connection to our system to be able to take that one off. But shortly thereafter.
When you refer to the standards, what are you referring to?
The PFAS limits by the government and the state.
Okay. And why were these wells taken offline?
We didn't want to provide any water that was exceeding any of those existing standards.
Did there come a point in time when you took all of the wells offline?
We took all the wells offline in 2016. We found out that the wells, all the wells had some level of contamination, and the board decided that they didn't want to send any water out if we could possibly do so. We did that after we got an agreement with the North Wales Water Authority to purchase surface water from their forest practices.
So what is the current source of water that the authority is distributing to its customers?
We currently have 2 production wells online with PFAS treatment systems, and but the vast majority of our water is purchased water from North Wales.
And is the purchased water from North Wales contaminated?
The water from North Wales has very, very low levels. I think, if my memory is correct, like 2.5 parts per trillion.
Okay, and what are the existing standards right
The state has the lowest standards right now, and the state standards are 14 parts PFOA
14 parts per
per trillion.
for PFOA.
Correct. And 18 parts per trillion of PFOS.
Is there a desire on the part of the authority to restore the functionality of the groundwater well system?
Of course.
Okay, and what needs to be done to put these wells back in service?
Well, again, the board does not want to introduce any PFAS chemicals into the system, so we need PFAS treatment on any of those wells that we're.
When all of the remaining wells were taken offline years ago, did that include well 37? How many of your existing wells currently have PFAS treatment systems on them?
We have 4 well systems with treatment systems on, 2 of which go.
Okay, and the remaining wells do not have treatment systems,
That's correct.
including well 37.
That's correct.
Yeah, and well 37 is currently offline.
That's
All right. And well 37 is one of the wells that the authority would like to put back into service.
correct. Well 37 are most productive well.
Okay, when you say most productive, can you quantify that?
Well 37 produced water at about 270 gallons a minute. Some of our other wells at the lower end. As a comparison, our well number 2 was producing water at 35.
Okay, and as one of the larger producers, is that one of the driving, motivating factors behind wanting to put well 37 back on the line?
Sure.
Can you explain to the board briefly how a PFAS removal system functions?
Sure, it's actually a pretty simple system. It's the water is pumped from the well. It's enclosed in a pipe. Pipe discharges that water directly into a stainless steel vessel. That vessel has resin media inside of that container. And the water filters through the media, down to the media, exits the bottom of the tank, goes to the next tank in series, goes to the top of that tank, water filters down through the media, and then exits out the bottom of that tank. That's pretty much the basics of a PFAS treatment.
And how is that equipment housed?
It's housed in a building. We have, as I previously testified, we have 4 treatment systems, all in block buildings, much larger than a normal well, because the vessels are large and need space to get around it.
Okay, is the existing well house at well 37 of sufficient size to house the PFAS treatment system?
No.
And why not?
It's just not large.
What must be done at that site to install PFAS removal system?
We need to build a new building size appropriately for those vessels and controls for those vessels. And the other operations as well.
So when I refer to a well house, what is actually inside the well house?
Inside the well house is piping, valves, electrical controls. In separate rooms, going to be a chlorine room for disinfection.
And is that required by law?
Yes,
And does the existing well house contain a chlorination system?
certainly all wells that discharges into the distribution system must by law have injections.
So the new well, or if the zoning relief that we're requesting is granted, new well house will contain not only a chlorination treatment system, but also a PFAS filtering system.
Correct.
Okay. How does a PFAS filtering system benefit the customers of the authority?
The obvious answer is it's removing PFAS chemicals. We don't want them in our bag. We don't have any request.
And if the PFAS removal system at well 37 is not installed, will the well remain out of service?
Yes.
And how is that a detriment to the authority's customers?
Takes our largest groundwater well out of the equation for providing water to us.
Now, does well 37 in part service the residents of Stowe Mill?
Well, certainly, all our wells feed into a common distribution system, but if a resident is closest to a well, they're naturally going to get more than that amount of well. So people at Stowe Mill, the majority of
And how was it that the authority was able to arrange for the provision of water to the residents of Stowe Mill?
through our agreement.
Okay, and when was that agreement entered into?
My memory's 1977.
Okay, is that the agreement that's marked as Exhibit A or
Yes.
exhibit submission?
Yes.
Okay, and that was an agreement among the authority, Warwick Township, and the developer is still the old town developer?
And once authority, yes.
Okay. How and when was the well 37 site acquired by the authority?
The well 37 site was acquired by the authority from the homeowners association, so the homeowners association in 1980.
And was that under the terms of an agreement with the homeowners association? Was that agreement marked as Exhibit B in our submission?
Right.
And when in fact was that tax parcel actually conveyed to the authority?
I believe it's 1985.
Okay, and have you seen the deed from 1985 that's marked as Exhibit C, part of our submissions?
I am.
Okay. After the authority acquired the site in 1985, what did the authority install at the site?
The authority installed was typically a well, treatment system. But it would install a well, drill a well, install a pump in that well. The pump is probably 200 plus feet in the ground, pumps the water out of the well into the well. Inside that well building, there's valves, motor control centers to power the well and control its operation. And we have that chlorine treatment.
Was the piping that's in the building connected to the well itself?
It is.
Okay. And the piping withdraws water from the well
Yes.
and sends it into piping that used to distribute the water to customers?
It does.
Okay. And for how many years has the existing well 37, and the existing well house been in service?
The well went into service in 1989. Shut that off in 2016.
Okay, so that, I'm doing my math correctly, that's about 27 years. Okay. Members of the board, those are all the questions I have for Mr. Hagan.
Will there be any net gain or loss monetarily to the rate payers, particularly the rate payers in Stowe Hill, as a result of bringing on the 37 back?
Monetarily, will there be a difference if we bring it back online? We haven't looked at it in that regard, to be honest with you. What we're looking at is we need waste. That's true. Groundwater wells are normally cheaper to operate than purchasing. So if I had to guess that if we had our wells back online, cheaper to operate.
And my assumption would be then that the authority would pass that saving on to the rate payers.
We're a nonprofit organization.
Now, you said that the depth of the well was 200 plus feet.
Yes.
But that well hasn't been operating since 2016.
Correct.
Now, and you take 200,000 gallons per hour.
No.
Let's see. How many gallons? 207. Gallons per minute. Gallons per minute. So times 6. It's a significant amount of money. What happens if the shallower wells of neighboring homeowners start to underperform as a result of you starting to take another 200 gallons per minute out of the aquifer?
What happens with the
Yeah.
wells?
Yes, let's, I live right across 263. My well is 70 feet. Okay. What happens if when this goes back online and you start to draw 200 gallons per minute out of that aquifer, my well goes down?
What's happened, let me ask you this, is what has happened prior to that? Have you had that well since
For a long time.
1989?
You haven't been drawing water out of that since 2016.
That's correct.
Lots of things have changed. And the amount of water that has come out of the aquifer.
I can't predict what's going to happen with the aquifer, but I can tell you over history. If your wells operated from the start of 1989 to 2016 without a problem, I would expect that.
In those same drought conditions.
But what if it doesn't? Has it ever been the case that a private well has been limited as a result of pumping water out of the aquifer at this rate? Has it ever been the case that that's happened?
Mr. Mullen, I've been here almost 20 years, and in 20 years, we've never had.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Is the water tested at that, or would it be tested at that pumping zone, or where is it tested for PFAS?
So the water is tested for PFAS by our permit at our existing wells that we have treatment systems on. It's checked twice a month currently
And that happens
at the well.
it would happen after.
Sure. Yeah, we do a raw sample, we do a intermediate sample, and we do a finished sample. So before the first treatment, in between the treatment tanks, and then after the last treatment.
And is
And we do a blank,
that?
And we do a what?
a blank.
Blank.
A blank is just a check to make sure that there's not some outside contamination going on.
And are those test results available to the public to see?
They can be.
Currently, they're not, though, if you test, those are not available.
They are, people ask them, we certainly.
But you're claiming that the filter system that you've been putting in would completely take care of the PFAS, phosphate and these things.
Yeah, so what we do with how we operate the treatment system, as soon as it breaks through that first vessel, we still have backup for the second vessel. As soon as it breaks through, we do a change out immediately. And we make the lead tank now the lag tank. So we switch the tank so it's going into the pinch tank, and it will come back to the first tank. So as soon as it breaks through, we change out the media in the tank that it broke through. And I expect, from our experience at other wells, well 37 is not as highly contaminated as some of our other wells, but it'll probably take 3 years.
For the.
So that means that you wouldn't have to change the media in the tank for 3 years.
Correct.
What do you do with the media after? Cycle it.
Our choice for what to do with the media is to incinerate. It's the only way right now that's known to destroy PFAS. Most of our media is labeled as the Department of Defense waste. They have a moratorium on burning. So currently, it would have to go away.
And the process of switching those filters out, is that a hazardous operation? Is it something that things can leak? Is it something that creates any type of danger?
No, the media absorbs, the correct term is it adsorbs to, the PFAS adsorbs to the resin media. So it's adhered to that media. If we keep it wet, that's the best way to get it out. If you let it dry, that would be a real problem to try and get it out of the tanks. Resin media is pretty easy compared to
What media,
resin. Is pretty easy to get out of the tank compared to granular activated carbon or GAC. We use different types of GAC. GAC has its own problems. It has arsenic in it. We don't want to sip arsenic out. So we pioneered use of resin in Pennsylvania, probably the nation, for treatment of PFAS contamination.
GAC was what?
GAC is granular activated carbon.
Okay. Mr. Hagee, could you give us a little bit of background of your PFAS and PFOS? How do they affect people and domestic animals?
I think the correct question, Mr. Wolf, is PFOA and PFOS.
I'm sorry.
PFAS is the family of chemicals. There's probably 10 to 20,000 different PFAS chemicals. PFOA and PFOS are the main components of atrial glycoside.
Well, thank you for explaining that to me, but can you tell me if there are any, what are the health effects of people with cigarettes?
So, I'm not a health expert. I've been to many, many meetings. We deflect that question because I'm not, I don't want to give health advice out to anybody, and I don't know, the health effects.
Do you have to do anything health effects?
There is a study that's kind of, it's a unique study that's been ongoing in the Warminster area. And that meeting's coming up, I think in August, to present its findings.
Mr. Numero, do you have anybody here tonight who might be able to answer my question?
I do not.
Okay, moving on then. You indicated that the system is partially fed by wells and partially fed by surface water from North Penn Water.
North Wales.
Northwest, I'm sorry. What percentage? Are you receiving all of your water from North Penn? Or
No,
what did I say? I said, I said that. North Penn is North Penn.
No.
the honest truth.
So, see, I wasn't-
The Forest Park plan is owned by North Penn and North Wales Water Authority. Our contract is with North Wales.
Okay, so you indicated there are 4 wells that are currently online within your system?
There are 4 wells with PFAS treatment systems installed. 2 of those wells send water out into the system. I believe our percentage is 87% coming from Forest Park, North Wales Water, as to our groundwater.
Thank you. So how much, you indicated earlier that if a dwelling is close to a well, it may be that those nearby dwellings would receive more of their water directly from the nearby well rather than being forced to the entire system?
Correct.
How much of Stover Mill was previously served by well 37?
That's not an answerable question for me. The well pump has to be running, pushing water when you're withdrawing water. So if you're not home, when that pump's running, you have less likely that you're getting that water from well 37. But if you're using water, wells running, that well ran a long time at well 37, again, it was our best production well. So the people in Stover Mill had a high percentage of likelihood that they were using water from the well.
Where's the testing performed? It wasn't clear on how you described where the testing was performed.
In the PFAS treatment system, water, we have a test site that we can take water off before it goes into the first tank. And then after the first tank, between the 2 tanks, and then after the second tank. So we have what we call raw, and then intermediate and finished.
And where would that testing site be located relative to well 37?
Oh, it's at the tank. It's literally at the tank.
The wellhead? At well 37?
No, in the treatment building.
Okay. And, it's. I'm going to get this wrong again. Why can't North Wales treat the water that they're sending into your system? You said that it was, what they're providing is somewhere around 4.5 parts per trillion in the state. I think it's 14.
My answer was 2.5. I thought that they have to report it on their consumer confidence report. So that was the highest level that they had tested. Most of them were non-detected. we're talking about really, really new part. So,
What's the federal limit?
there isn't, but the proposed federal limit is,
And what's 1237 producing?
what is its levels?
Yeah.
It was 11 for PFOA and 17 for PFOS.
Is there any way that you can blend water from North Wales with the existing wells and therefore dilute and reduce the level in your system from your wells?
Without treatment system?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be possible, but we won't do that.
But I asked why.
We don't want any.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I get this, appreciate this time to leave allow
Yes.
parties to post time?
Yes, so I'm gonna ask each of the parties one at a time. Please remember, this is just questions, not statements or anything of that nature. So we'll start with Mr. Levitz. Do you have any questions of this particular witness?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Do we get an opportunity for statements and closing statements, Dan?
Yep.
Beautiful, thank you.
Did the authority decide to build 13 separate filters instead of one large one at the treatment facility on a plot of land?
Hey, could you speak up here? Folks in the back can't hear you.
The question was, why did the authority decide to build 13 separate filters at 13 separate sites instead of one large processing facility?
Because it's impossible.
It's impossible. Can you
The-
elaborate?
Sure. So at each well site, you have to have treatment system. We can't send water from like, let's use example, well 37. So well 37 sends the water into the distribution system, which is all the streets in our service area. So I can't send that to it doesn't have a direct pipe to another location, let's say in the middle of Warminster, and each well does not have a direct pipe that goes there without going out into the distribution system.
Okay.
It would be a lot more economical, and I would love that.
Okay. How big are the tanks?
7 foot that.
What's in terms of gallons?
Perhaps we could, so Mr. Getz testifies to next this question. I think that's for his area of expertise, right? That's great.
Okay. Now you said the filters are changed out once every 3 years.
That would be our expectations with the amount of PFAS that's in well 37 from our testing. How much water goes through that treatment system.
This is not based on what's being done at the other wells.
Oh, sure, because we understand how much water can go through the filter at what level. We have a pretty good idea what that is.
Okay, and can you just explain in a little more detail the process of changing the filters?
Changing the media.
Changing the media, that's
So we would take the water under pressure, we valve off the tank, and we open an exit, and we literally push the media out into a super sack. We let that super sack sit in the well building, and the water that's flowing from that media goes into a drain, goes into our wastewater.
it goes right into your wastewater plant.
Yep.
I think the rest would be more appropriate for ending here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Steiglitz, did you have any questions for this witness?
I do. It's tough to know what needs to go to Mr. Getz and what doesn't, so bear with me as I readjust here for just a moment.
I'll do my best to be a good engineer.
All right, I appreciate that.
And I'm not.
Yeah, so moving on some of my engineering questions here. Site location questions, I feel like I can really, right?
Sure.
Okay. So why is this location being preserved, proposed when it is, when it's within a known floodplain and a riparian corridor?
So the proposal is to actually put the new building outside the floodplain. I have no idea why it was built in a floodplain. And so we don't want a new building in floodplain if we can construct it that way.
Well, according to the application, it looks like you're going to be building. floodplain.
Well, I would disagree with that. Mr. Getz can testify.
Okay. What flood mitigation measures will be required if the variances are approved?
Mr. Getz will answer that.
Why is Warminster WMA seeking such large reductions in front and side setbacks of 25 yards closer to the property line? Is this Mr. Getz' question?
No, that's a good question for me. When we know the size of the building that we need to house those treatment vessels, and then you go, okay, where can I put this? We can't put it anywhere without a variance. You have a 100-foot setback, the front, 100-foot setback from the back. Now I have nowhere to go. So we try and move that to where it's out of the floodplain. It's as far, it's facing, like the opening is facing away into open space, so it's not affecting the neighbors as much. So we try to make the best location as we go. It's not legal. I wish we had a whole lot bigger property. We're working with what we have.
Can you list your top 3 wells that are currently operational? How many gallons they pump in?
So we have 2 wells into the distribution system. Wells 10 and 13. And well 10 does about 225 gallons a minute, in that range. Well 13 does a lot less. I think it's 120 gallons a minute.
So how many other wells are currently still operational?
I have to be careful here. 4 wells have treatment systems on. 1 we don't use. 1 pumps, but we don't use that water. What we've done is we decided not to use that water. It was the most polluted well that we had. It had other issues, and we decided we have a agreement with the United States Navy to pump that well, and we decided we're just going to treat it and send it to the creek. So we have an NPDES treatment permit to send that water to the creek. So we operate the well, but it goes to the creek. Well, number
Goes to the creek.
creek, yes.
I have a follow-up question about that, but I don't think it's relevant. So. All right. Are your operational wells once they're currently functioning, they currently located in residential neighborhoods?
Yes.
How close would you say these wells are to these residences?
Well, 10's probably 150 feet from a resident. Not as close as this one, and the same with well 13. Well, 13 is probably 300 feet.
Will the public have access to real-time or routine data on water quality and VFAs and the levels post-construction? So,
PFAS compounds, will you have access to those?
will we have access to essentially water quality in general?
Yes, sure.
Will it be available in real time?
Real time, meaning when we get the report back, reports take 3 to 4 weeks to get the results back from the lab, and then we can post.
How frequently do you run these tests?
We run PFAS tests twice a month.
That answers my next question about. I think that I will wait for this to get to the. I'll have to document it for that, please. Thank you.
Mr. Hungerford, any questions?
Yes, and I may ask some things because I have a hard time hearing sometimes. A couple of questions. You talked about the changing, the cleaning out of the filters. What kind of equipment is required for that? What kind of disruption would we expect to see every time they come in to clean out those filters?
So hopefully you heard that we do this we should do this about every 3 years.
That's a guesstimate. Yeah, I heard that.
And then what happens is we bring in super sacks. We essentially pump that media out into the super sacks. We will take it away in a truck. So you'll see it, we'll need a forklift, a truck to load it onto. And then the new ones coming in, the media comes in barrels. And so we'll truck those in. But we usually do it, a change out, probably takes about 3 days.
So we're gonna have a truck in there, multiple trucks or just one truck?
No, a few trucks.
All right, we're talking tractor trailers, Mike, or what are you talking?
No, I would not think track.
I'm guessing done well, yeah. So now, what kind of, like, is this gonna put off an odor when this happens?
Absolutely not.
You talked about, I heard chlorine. We're gonna be, there's gonna be chlorine on the site
There's chlorine on every well site.
now.
Yes, if you have a well and you're sending that water out into a distribution system, you must have chlorine.
Chlorine, yeah, but I'm just wondering what volume of chlorine and what risks will that pose to our kids playing in the area?
So we have it's housed in a separate building, a separate room in that building, just like it is now at well 37 and every other well. And there's multiple safety measures that we have to take to make sure that we are safe with chlorine. We have 150-pound cylinders. That's what's in 150-pound cylinders. The wastewater plant is 1,000-pound cylinders. But at each well is 150-pound cylinders. Yeah, and we just did tests today on all of our chlorine systems to make sure that that if the alarm goes off, we get notified. If there's chlorine in there, we test different safety measures.
I mean, right now, every once in a while, I hear that generator kick off. I guess that's when it's pumping, makes a bit of a racket. Are we gonna be pumping more frequently?
Well, that generator, it just exercised once a week.
Oh, that's what the exercise, okay. Now, one of the questions it came to me is how, you talk about the cost, right? What is the return, what is the break even point? When do we see a reduction in cost over the construction costs of this thing? When, I mean, we're buying water, I understand that, right? But it's gonna cost us money to get this set up. When do we recoup that? When does it start becoming economically feasible to do this?
On day one, because the United States Navy is going to be paying for this treatment.
Right, and then I don't remember the numbers you said, that were at least the state limits, right? But I think I heard you say that I can't, POS A and S,
Mhm.
A is 11 parts and 37
Yeah,
and
Yeah,
17 of the S,
yes.
okay,
And I'm in the ballpark. I may be 19. I think it was 19.
right,
So
so
that one
it doesn't
was
seem like a lot of a drop. Yeah, I mean, it's lower than the standards already, right, which is 14 and 19 or 18,
Yeah,
something like that.
18. So the PFOS was at 19. That's why the United States Navy agreed to the treatment on that.
Right, okay, so when we get this machine in here, what is it bringing it down to?
Zero.
It's gonna take it down to zero.
That's our goal. Our goal is to provide water for all our customers as close to zero as possible.
Does this, forever come from anything other than, I mean, I worked with the Navy, I worked for Ivy Land Fire Company, I stood on a burning plane and put out fire one time, right? So, what, you know, I don't know how often they did that, I did it a couple times, so. Is there other ways this is getting to our system? Is it all the Navy's fault? Well, I grew up in Orange, right across from the Naval Intersection.
There are multiple ways to get PFAS. I don't want to scare anybody, but everybody in here has to.
Right, I know I do.
99% of people in the world have it in their blood. It's incredible.
I mean, you know, is it coming from the surface water too? You know,
No. Well, yes, we get very small amount sometimes from North Wales. But the vast majority of contamination that you're gonna get from PFAS, in my opinion, is from drinking. Now, we haven't had PFAS in our drinking water since 2016. But that's why we're so concerned to make sure that it's at zero, as close to zero as possible. But that phone is really the key. You find military bases around the world, air bases, that it's a problem.
and the last one, will we need to be drilling another well? I mean, we have a well there now, 37. Is there gonna be an additional drilling, any additional drilling?
No.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gabe?
Right, there's probably a few little based on the size of the building now, how much bigger is the building now?
I don't know in square footage, but on our other wells, the treatment system, it works with weather. So at like our well 10 site, I'm gonna say that treatment building is 4 times the size.
Okay, so what's there now is just about.
Correct. It's a well
So
treatment.
we're talking building 4 times the size of what's there.
Not quite so much. Three.
Is this
But
something,
much significantly big.
is this something that's maintained where there's constant traffic in and out on it?
Just like another well, we certainly check all the wells every day.
Okay, so, but it's not gonna be a storage, like it's a storage place and trucks coming in.
No.
What's the time for the construction? How long is this construction gonna take?
Well, first, we hope to get there.
Well,
And we
but
do.
Yeah.
If we do, it's probably going to be 6 months.
6 months. That I'm gonna shut off the Stover Street.
Oh, no.
Okay. Our basin empties into that area of the wall. What stuff?
That area where the water, where the well.
The basin, I've been in the neighborhood long enough to see that basin overflow. Okay, that basin goes right into where you want to put the well. So what steps are being taken to avoid that? I know we just had the basin redone with new piping. But I don't know, you're now talking about filling that area that we just had fixed with a new pumping station.
No, we're not. Let's be clear. We're not drilling a new well. The well's gonna stay where it is. The pump's gonna stay where it is. Some of the piping is gonna change because the well treatment building is going to be moved out of the floodplain.
Okay, so in comparison, I guess I'll ask him one, because I know where the well is. Is it going to go, if we can't go towards the house, so we'd have to go into the area that is closer to the basin drill. That was my, I'll ask him.
And Rick will show that.
Yeah, okay.
He has a nice display.
You talked about there's 2 other treatment plants in residential neighborhoods. Is any of those have an association that you know of?
No.
No? So none of them are, like association, there are no 55 and older communities. Okay, because I think I know that, speaking from even though my kids are older, I know that there's a lot of children in our neighborhood. And the concern, that was my first concern, as soon as I heard they were gonna put construction in there, is the traffic that's gonna go in there. That if there's gonna be more people in and out constantly, we have kids. Unfortunately, we've had a dumpster fire from kids, okay? That concerns me when you're starting to put all this equipment in there with some of the kids. So what's gonna go around? What are we looking at fencing wise?
We're going to put a black aluminum fence around, the building,
10 feet?
10 feet high. No.
That's not
Better.
Listen, kids want to get in, the kids get in, we are well 24 up Stover Street, and we've tried to make that as bulletproof as possible, but then it gets damaged regularly. But we'll put a fence up, it'll look nice, there's a black building, the building's fine.
What's the current depth of the well now?
The current depth of
Even though it's not.
the well is probably between 300 and 400 feet. The well pump is set at about 200 plus.
Okay, so they don't have to drill anything else extra in
No.
there. Okay, I'm good for now.
Okay, thank you. Are you okay, Don, or do you need a break? Okay, okay. Mr. Memroff, do you want to present your next witness?
Yes, please. Okay, but who are you employed?
CKS Engineers.
And is that the engineering company that is the consulting engineers for the authority? Okay, how long have you been employed by CKS?
Just about 2 years.
All right, could you share with the board a little bit about your qualifications and background?
Sure. I came in to assist with the PFAS design work that CKS Engineers is undergoing. We've worked with Warminster on those two existing sites. We're working with the Doylestown Borough for their PFAS project, Telford Borough Authority with their PFAS project. We're assisting Richland Township Water Authority with PFAS pilot study. So we've done a lot of PFAS work in the area.
And are you licensed as a professional engineer?
I am.
In what states?
Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Maryland.
Okay. Are you familiar with the zoning classification? In the location of 1237?
Yes.
Okay, MF1.
Sorry.
MF1.
And that's one. You can speak up short for them. Yep. Project your voice so that everybody in the room can hear that.
And MF1 is what type of district?
Multifamily residential.
All right, and are you familiar with the uses that are permitted by special exception?
I am.
And does that include what's described in the ordinance as E1, utility/public service?
It does.
Okay. Now, the authority in part provides water, distributes water to the public, correct?
Correct.
So in your opinion, is that a public service?
It is.
All right. Did you prepare a plan for use at the hearing tonight?
I did.
And is that plan marked as Exhibit A as part of our exhibit submission?
Yes.
Is that plan with regard to the zoning application for well 37?
Yes.
All right, and have you displayed that plan for our use this evening?
I have.
And is that,
That is correct.
right? Would the board like us to bring that a little bit closer?
I think the board would prefer that we rotate it so the members of the audience can see it.
Sure.
Yes. Does everyone see that?
I'm just there.
They put it in front of the podium maybe, or because us on the side can't see it at all.
Yeah, maybe you can bring it forward next to the dais. There's like right there. You can see it. Is that better? No, for the lights.
There's no good place.
Just leave this here.
Right there.
Everybody, good? Yeah.
And what's the date of the plan?
May 16th, 2025.
All right, and for what purpose was this prepared?
This was prepared to be an exhibit in the zoning hearing board application.
What does the plan show generally?
Generally, it shows a table for zoning and use requirements.
Can you point to that, please?
That is the zoning use table, or the zoning requirements table. This is the use requirements table.
Okay.
We also have on it the floodplain shown, which is the bold dashed line that says FP.
Why don't you use your point?
Sure. Right here. We also have the proposed location of the new PFAS treatment building or well house building right here. We have the existing well house building shown as to be removed right here. We have the various setback dimensions off of the existing as well as the new building. And we also have proposed planting locations and proposed driveway extensions as well as fencing.
Okay, let's talk about these data that's in the use box.
Sure.
Okay, starting with the lot area requirement. Could you show everybody on the plan the lot area?
Sure. So the lot area is shown on the plan. The property lines have the meets and bounds on it throughout the site. Shown generally in that area highway.
And what is required by the ordinance with regard to the lot area?
A minimum of 1 acre,
And the existing well house sits on how many acres?
1.35 acres.
Okay, and the proposed well house will sit on how many acres?
We are not modifying the size of the lot, so it'll be remaining on 1.35 acres.
Okay, and when the existing well house was constructed on 1.35 acres, was that done in accordance with the special exception?
Yes,
So both structures essentially exceed, minimally exceed the lot area requirement, is that correct?
that is correct.
Okay. Let's turn our attention then to the lot width. Can you show us the width of the lot on the plans?
Generally, we state that it varies based off of the frontage, as this is a corner lot. There's Bancroft Place, Stover Street, and Clover Place. Generally, we like to define the lot, though, as essentially the width from the westerly side to the easterly side, so that's the length.
Okay, and what's the requirement from zoning ordinance?
Require 150 feet.
All right, is any zoning relief being requested in connection with the width of the lot?
No,
Let's turn our attention then to the front yard setback. What is required by the ordinance?
that's 100 feet.
Okay, and the existing well house is how many feet from the front yards?
The existing well house from Clover Place is 90.13, and from Stover Street, it's 95.49.
Can you show us on the plan?
There's the 90.3 from Clover and the 95.49 from Stover.
And the proposed well house?
The proposed well house is proposed at 90 feet from Clover and is well over 100 feet from Stover.
Okay, so the difference between the proposed well house and the existing well house was 90.13 feet. And
That's
the
correct.
proposed well house is 90 feet.
Correct.
Okay. So is it fair to say then that when the existing well house was constructed and situated as shown on the plan, that it was done pursuant to a variance that was granted?
That is correct.
Okay. And it's a minimal difference between the two well houses,
0.13 feet.
but a variance nevertheless is needed.
That is correct.
Okay. let's discuss the side yard setback. What is required by the ordinance?
For the E1 utility public service, it requires 100 feet.
Right, in the existing well house, what is the distance?
From TMP 51-14-136, which is 913 Clover, that existing setback is 83.03 feet.
Is there another setback measurement on the plan?
For that setback, no, it's 90 or 83.03.
And with regard to the proposed well house, what's the
It's
setback?
30 feet.
Okay. So the difference is rather substantial between the existing well house and the proposed well house.
That's correct.
Okay. So a variance is needed, once again,
Correct.
just like a variance was needed for the existing well house years ago.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a rear yard setback on this plan?
Technically, it's considered a side yard as it's a corner lot. You could say it's either a side or a rear. The variance requires 100 feet either way, if it's a side or a rear. So I'll call it a rear, just so it's a little bit more understandable for everybody, but we're calling it a side. That is 75.04 feet between the existing well house and tax parcel number, I forget, 5132-211, which is the Heritage Creek Community Association.
So that's less than the 100-foot requirement.
That's correct.
And that must have been approved by
Yes.
variance relief, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the proposed well house?
It's 25 feet.
So once again, a variance would be needed.
That's correct.
Okay. And what is the setback of the proposed well house from Stover Street?
From Stover Street,
Yeah.
we don't have it shown. We know it's over 100 feet.
But 100 feet is the minimum.
Correct.
Okay. And what about from Bancroft Place?
Bancroft Place is even further away, by 300 feet.
And from the westerly property line?
I would say about the same, 300 feet.
Okay. All right, and let's discuss impervious coverage. What's the requirement in the ordinance?
Required to have 20%, a maximum of 20%,
And what did the existing well house have?
4.7%,
And the proposed well house?
8.2%, I believe.
So it's within the requirement.
That's correct.
No relief is required. Okay. Building coverage. What is the requirement of the ordinance?
We are required to have a maximum of 20%.
And what is building coverage?
That's the area that the building itself covers on the lot,
All right, and what area did the existing well, or does the existing well house cover?
0.8%,
And the proposed well house,
2.1%.
both of which are within the requirement?
That's correct.
So no relief is needed.
Correct.
Okay. Building height, what is the requirement for building height?
A maximum of 35 feet.
And the existing well house
It's approximately 12 feet tall.
and the proposed well house?
It's 22 foot 1 inch.
All right, so it meets the requirement.
It's on.
Okay. Will the proposed use generate any adverse odors?
No,
Noise,
no,
vibration?
no,
What about environmental impacts beyond the property lines?
none.
So I want to get a little bit more technical now. What specifically will be housed in the proposed well house?
As Tim had previously said, there will be the PFAS removal vessels. There will be associated piping. There will be water quality monitoring devices. There will be electrical associated with the well pump and the building itself. And there will also be a chlorination system
Piping for what?
for the water to come from the well into the building and then to be sent out to the distribution network.
And the vessels, how many will there be?
There are 2.
And can you describe their dimensions?
They are 7 feet in diameter, approximately 11.5 feet tall.
And those are the vessels that are used for filtering the PFAS.
That's correct.
Okay. So how is what is going to be housed in the proposed well house different from what's housed in the existing well house?
Currently, there's just a chlorination system, associated piping and electrical equipment in the existing well house.
Okay, and why can't the PFAS filter system be housed in the existing well?
As I stated, the vessels are 11.5 feet tall. The overall building for the peak of the roof is 12 feet. So there's just not enough head space in the building.
Now, you have brought with you this evening a series of photographs. Can we take down the plan on the top? Discuss these photographs.
Sure.
Before we get to the photographs, I did want to cover one more issue.
States. Apologize for being.
Why don't we do this? Let me put it up on the easel. It's a start.
All right, that is humble.
Sure. Before we get to the photographs, with regard to the size difference between the two buildings, the existing well house and the proposed well, did indicate that the existing well house is approximately 12 feet high. How large is the proposed well house going to be? What are the dimensions compared to the dimensions of the existing?
The existing well house is approximately 14 feet by 28 feet. The new proposed well house would be 30 feet by 42 feet.
And I do want to ask you another question about that. Once again, with your pointer, show us where the existing well house is located, right here. So that's in front of the proposed location of the proposed well house, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And why must the proposed well house be located, oriented, in the location shown on the plan?
We wanted to ensure that the building was not constructed inside the floodplain on the Caribbean corridor. So that is why it's located in this location here. It's oriented the way it's oriented as to put all the doors, access doors, 2 man doors and 1 overhead door, essentially pointing towards this wooded area so that it's not really visible to the residents.
Okay. Now, we can go to the photographs. Please.
I assume that you're going to be presenting these photographs in the same order as they are here.
Yes.
Yes. That,
Thank you.
the photographs that we're about to discuss, Mark, this is that part of the submissions in this proceeding?
That's correct.
Okay. And who took these photographs?
These pictures were taken by my office, as well as some drone pictures taken by
Some block pictures.
drone.
When were they taken?
They were taken last week.
The photograph that is front and center on the easel, can you describe what is shown in the photograph?
This is a aerial photo taken by a drone of the site itself.
Can you describe for everybody what we are looking at in the photograph? Who's in your photo?
Sure. Here we see the existing well house, the fence that wraps around this well house. These are the access driveways. And then we see the wooded area where the unnamed tributary, Little Neshaminy Creek is, as well as that culvert that's there.
And what about to the right of that building?
Over here is the open area where we are proposing to install the new building. It's generally in this area here.
Okay, let's do this. Let me hold that that photograph. I'd like you to take everybody through the other photographs relative to what they see in the area.
Sure. So the
The
first,
first, let's do it in the same order.
okay, you discussed the first photo. Moving on to the second one. This photo here is the frontage from Stover Street facing north, with the existing fence shown. Taken generally in this area over here. The next picture is the intersection of Clover Place and Stover Street. Here's this intersection we're discussing. The next picture is also the intersection of Clover and Stover. This is facing the south, and you can see the open space area of Warwick. It's off this aerial photo. It's to the south of the property. The next photo that we have is the existing depressed curb and concrete driveway apron for site access. Excuse me, Yes. is this the photograph that's labeled? Oh, I apologize. I apologize. I skimmed over that. Next picture, as Mr. Wolf has stated, is the picture of Clover Place with the eastern portion of the property shown in the background. Thank you. Another view kind of taken over here, looking in this general area. Then moving on is the existing press curb and concrete driveway apron for site access from Clover Place. This is that driveway apron right here. The next picture is the westerly property frontage at Bancroft. It's off of the aerial photo. It's to the left, my left, off of this picture. And the next picture,
Use the pointer, please.
that's over the page here.
Off photo.
The next picture is the existing vegetation along the property line between the existing well house and the Heritage Homeowners Association. It's a picture of this taken from the back, highlights the existing vegetation and the open space that is behind the property. Next, we have the existing easterly side yard facing 913 Clover Place. Pictures taken here, looking at this area over here. On. This is the existing building to be demolished facing north. It's this corner right here. Next, we have the existing building facing the south. That's here. Next, we have the recently reconstructed culvert at Stover Street frontage. Culvert's right here. Next, we have the unnamed tributary to the Little Neshaminy Creek in culvert. This is taken inside the culvert in this general area that's wooded, so it's not very easy to see exactly what the picture is taken. This is a picture of the unnamed Little Neshaminy Creek tributary, an existing riparian buffer. This is facing west. It's over in this area here. And finally, we have the existing vegetation in the riparian corridor at the Stover Street frontage. This here.
With regard to the access shown on the aerial photograph, any changes posed to that?
We are proposing a slight addition of driveway in this general area, a very small addition on the other side.
All right, the plan also, shown on the plan also poses a new driveway. Where is that located?
So that is the driveway that I spoke about.
And which property is to the southeast of the well house?
That's 913 as well.
And are any buffers being proposed between that property and the proposed well house?
We are proposing the use of green giant arborvitaes. I will show 15 of them. That's subject to change. And we're also showing 3 eastern red buds. That's more of a beautification tree towards the front of the site, so it's front and center as you're driving past.
Okay. And what prevents the proposed well house from being constructed in compliance with the 100-foot setback requirement on all sides?
There is really no location on this property that would allow you to have 100-foot setback in all directions.
Why is that?
It's the site dimensions.
Okay. And how does this plan minimize the encroachment of the required 100-foot setback?
We are proposing this location to bring it out of the floodplain repairing corridor. We are locating really the only location, plus or minus a few feet in any direction, that is outside the floodplain and repairing corridor that's buildable.
Why is that significant?
There is much more zoning relief required if you were to construct a facility inside of the floodplain or repairing corridor.
So is part of the objective with this plan to minimize the zoning relief that's necessary?
That's correct.
I want to ask you some questions now about floodplain.
Sure.
And if you could, again, just orient everybody to the location of the floodplain.
Yes. The floodplain is shown on the map on the eastern and western sides of the map by the dashed bold line that has the FP on it. It's drawing now.
And we've already established that the existing well house is within the floodplain, correct?
That is correct.
And that the proposed well house will, if permitted, will be constructed outside of the floodplain.
That is correct.
Okay. Is there anything shown on the plan that will actually encroach on the floodplain?
Yes.
What is it?
The proposed driveway addition, the proposed fencing. The fencing is shown as the solid line with the double X's. There will also be underground piping modifications required, as well as a potential stormwater management facility.
All right, and the driveway will be used for what purpose?
It's for egress as well as the turning of vehicles.
Now, given the orientation of the proposed well house, is it possible to locate the driveway outside of the floodplain?
No.
Right. And how often will this driveway be used?
As Tim said, there would be a staff there on a daily basis to collect samples. And then approximately every 3 years, there would be a media change out.
And when authority employees are at the site on a daily basis, and they travel to that site, what types of vehicles or type of vehicle?
Usually like an F-150 or a utility body vehicle.
And where will the vehicles be parked?
They'll be parked on the driveway, probably very close to the new building.
For about how long on each visit?
I don't think they'd be there more than 1 hour.
Okay. With regard to the underground piping, we talked about, that is the piping that is used to extract the water from the well and send it into the distribution, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now that piping is not really shown on the plan because it's subsurface, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Is it possible to locate that piping outside of the floodplain?
No, as the well itself is located in the floodplain right here. And the location for the tie-in of this as the water exits the PFAS treatment well house facility is also inside of the floodplain.
How will the floodplain be disturbed to install the piping in the driveway?
There will be some excavation that would have to occur.
And how will those areas be restored?
They would be restored to the standards of the authority, the backfilled and seeded as would be standard.
And could you show us on the plan where the fencing is going to be located?
Sure. As I stated before, it's the line with double X. So we have a fence coming out here. There's a proposed swing gate. That's so that the can go and access the wellhead. And then it comes around, connects in, comes back around.
And why is the fencing necessary?
For public safety and security.
It's possible to locate the fencing completely outside of the floodplain?
No.
Why is that?
There's not much of this parcel that isn't inside of the floodplain.
and to ensure that you are securing all parts around this new building and the facility. It'll have to have some inside the floodplain.
Now, the plan addresses the potential need for a stormwater facility, correct?
That's correct.
Is that shown on the plan anywhere?
It is not.
Okay. And when I say potential, why is it potentially needed?
It would be potentially needed for the land development requirements
The township?
of the township.
So it's not yet known.
It's not yet known.
Okay. Nevertheless, we're seeking a variance, correct?
As opposed to having to come back if we're told that we need to put it in there, we figured it would be best to approach it this way.
Okay. What does the ordinance require for the protection of the floodplain?
It requires 100% protection, so no disturbances.
Is that expressed in the form of a ratio?
Yes,
Is that a natural resource protection ratio?
that is correct.
What is that ratio?
That ratio is essentially the floodplain of protection ratio, which is 1 times the area inside the floodplain.
Okay, and will the proposed plan satisfy that requirement?
No.
All right, and why not?
As I stated, there will be fencing inside the floodplain. There'll be some driveway addition inside the floodplain, potential stormwater management facility, as well as underground pipe.
Okay, and can you quantify the extent of the encroachment of those aspects of the plan?
It's minimal. I think the approximate size of the driveway is around 800 square feet. The fencing, I don't have an exact length, but most of the encroachment is on the easterly side of the floodplain, trying to stay away from going too deep into the flood.
Okay. I want to ask you some questions now about the riparian corridor. It's the term you're familiar with?
It is,
Okay, can you, first of all, define what the riparian corridor is?
the ordinances state that the riparian corridor is 75 feet, extends in all directions 75 feet from the top of the bank of a waterway.
In this case, what waterway are we talking about?
We're talking about the unnamed tributary to the Little Neshaminy Creek.
Can you show us on the plan the location of the riparian corridor?
So the zoning ordinance states, as I said, it's 75 feet in all directions. The greater of the riparian corridor of the floodplain will be what's held to. The riparian corridor on the easterly side does not extend as far as the floodplain elevation does. That's why we do not show the exact length of the riparian corridor, as the floodplain is bigger. And then on the westerly side, we do have a slight portion that has a hatching towards Bancroft Place, and that is the riparian corridor that extends past the floodplain.
Okay, does the floodplain and the riparian corridor overlap?
Yes.
And what is the natural resource protection ratio for the riparian corridor? We talked about the ratio for the floodplain. What is it for the riparian corridor?
It is also 100%.
Okay. And what are specifically the natural resources that are protected in the riparian corridor?
That would be the steep slopes, the water courses, and woodlands.
Does your plan propose to protect 100% of the riparian corridor?
It does not.
Okay, and is that for the same reasons that applied to the reasons that the floodplain are not 100% protected?
That is correct.
Okay. To what extent will the riparian corridor be protected? Or maybe a better way to ask the question is, to what extent will these aspects of the plan encroach upon the riparian corridor?
We're trying to minimize the work inside the floodplain and riparian corridor. There's going to be work for the pipe work that has to be done, and that would then be restored to as it was before. And then there's that small portion of driveway and the proposed fencing, as well as potential stormwater management. So,
All right, and that's the reason we're seeking a variance, not only with regard to the natural resource protection requirement of the ordinance for the floodplain, but also the riparian part.
that's correct.
Okay. Now, the zoning ordinance permits as a conditional use what's referred to, and I quote, as a naturalized stormwater basin. You familiar with that phrase?
I am.
Okay. What is a naturalized stormwater basin?
A naturalized stormwater basin is a above-ground stormwater management facility that has native plantings.
And such a basin as a conditional use is approved as a conditional use in zone 2, correct?
That is correct.
And is the proposed well house and driveway also in zone 2?
That is correct.
And you stated earlier that there is the possibility, or that we anticipate, that the township may require the installation of a stormwater facility at the site. Do you know why?
To mitigate any stormwater runoff from from impervious surfaces on the site.
And will the plan increase the extent or the amount of impervious surface?
It will.
Can you quantify that?
As I stated before, the impervious surface goes from, I believe it is 4.7 up to 8.2%.
And what does the authority propose in connection with a stormwater facility for this site?
We would be proposing unnaturalized underground stormwater facility.
Why underground?
As there's a lot of utilities on the site, would be difficult to put a naturalized stormwater management facility. So a underground stormwater management facility would be easier to install and wouldn't run into potential conflicts with utilities that are existing.
And where would that facility potentially be located on the plan?
Generally, it needs to be located down gradient from the building and the impervious surfaces. So we're generally, and we haven't made a full design, so generally it would be to the west of the new proposed driveway.
And if such a facility has to be constructed underground, would it be within the riparian corridor?
Would be within the riparian corridor and the flood.
And how would it adversely impact the riparian corridor and the floodplain?
It wouldn't really adversely affect it.
How would such a facility benefit any down gradient properties?
It would be, it's installed to capture any runoff that could potentially be released off of the site.
Okay, and how will the installation of such a facility disturb, if at all, the riparian corridor and the floodplain?
There would be excavation required to install
And how would it be restored?
it. With a top layer of soil and some type of planting, and mostly grass,
And that would be performed by the authority,
or the contractor.
or the contractor?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Now, with regard to the tree buffers, or the trees themselves, how will the planting of these trees, planting of these trees impact stormwater runoff from the proposed well house?
Sure. Trees, root systems will capture water, and that water will go in the tree and then be released through evaporation as the tree processes the water.
Do you anticipate that the installation of these trees might, excuse me, negate the need for the stormwater facility?
It may,
Okay. Nevertheless, we're seeking a variance, sort of proactively, for this stormwater facility.
we're taking belts and suspenders approach to this.
Okay. Members of the board, those are all the questions I have for Mr. Vance.
Are you, the only quick break right here, I can go out to the car and get my copy of it, so I can do that.
Are you guys the one who posted the mark code? I thought it was great. You guys did very fun.
Somebody took it down.
You're the Tesla, yes, that's. Yeah, I don't got it. Trim and everything.
Now, I have a stream running through my basement, so there's. I mean, really, they didn't have any more water, big down water. They never park on the driveway, they park on our street. Yeah. They always, yeah. I know. Out in the street. I'm gonna have to go. I saw that.
I did go though, like, I didn't know it's gonna be this long. I didn't even know you could. I did. I snuck in. We see you, Jason.
Yeah, this is a lot.
I'm literally falling asleep and I can get up in 5 more days. My stomach is like out of whack.
So I get excited. This is easy. We asked for all documentation so that we could prepare our and they hit it. Wow. We had no idea if they wanted to put this on their information. So now not only do you want to build a building, but you can do this. And you know they're gonna do it if they get the approval. Good.
Oh, it's live. I can go and just put on my phone.
Yeah.
I just tell you questions and you You just happen to have your
Yeah.
They're like.
I just they were behind the building and I
Oh, yeah. I just. I know.
I really appreciate you coming. I really don't.
Are we picking on them? I know.
Well, the board members have been.
We're not voting for it tonight.
I'm assuming now. All of this.
I think with all of this, you're gonna have to post maybe something else. Welcome, tell me what happened.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have some drink, but I can't. Like it's sing on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sisters.
Yes, like, yes, we, applicant press is part of the.
What's the plan?
I'm not even doing one sometime for you. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, this was yes. You're on the mouse. Okay, who wants to go first? Matt, you wanna go? Okay, you wanna go? I've got to myself. Your lights. I've got it. Sure.
Thank you.
Do you have any idea? It's like this stretch, do you have any idea what the status of the repair and buffer ordinance was at the time this was constructed in the mid-80s?
I do not.
Do you have any idea what the referred to special exception was previously granted?
I do not know if that.
You indicated that the riparian buffer not depicted on the east side floodplain.
Correct.
And that's because the dimension is measured from the top bank.
The ordinance states, Warwick's ordinance states that the greater of the riparian buffer floodplain shall, and the riparian buffer is, smaller, extends not as far as the floodplain.
Okay, then going back to the application. The application indicates that you're asking for a variance in section 10560K5G and 10561D2K to allow additional paved driveway and parking areas in the riparian corridor conservation district. So
That's correct.
however, I don't see that particular exhibit you provide at all. So I want driveway, build driveway inside of the flood.
As I stated, as the riparian buffer is smaller than the floodplain, it's, the riparian buffer still affects that whole floodplain area.
So where is the easterly limit of the riparian buffer compared to the easterly limit of the flood? Mention that effect?
I do not know off the top of my head.
So then is the existing structure impacting riparian buffer?
I would assume it is inside of it. Yes.
Do you have a value for the area of disturbance in your riparian buffer?
It's approximately 100 square feet worth of driveway. I would have a hard time quantifying the exact disturbance for the fencing.
Well, I'm a little concerned about surface disturbance.
So about 800 square feet.
So the building height of the existing structure, you said is approximately 12 feet.
Right.
And you indicated that the height of the tanks, the holding tanks are somewhere around 11.5 feet.
Approximately to the top of the vessel.
Is there some sort of cradle or something that the vessel sits
The
on?
vessels have legs that go into the ground, and then above the top of the vessel is overflow pipe that extends maybe 1 to 2 feet above that.
So that's the entire nothing.
No, the 11 feet is just the top of the vessel. I would say it's probably about 13 feet to the top of that pipe.
Is there any need for access by a person to the top of the vessel to get inside of it?
There's an access at the bottom.
You said that the plan indicates that the proposed height, the new building is 22 feet.
Correct.
The ordinance permits 35 feet.
Correct.
Given the footprint of the existing building, is there any way that you could raise the roof another 20-some feet, put it all in one building, or does the footprint of the vessels and chlorine contact tank include that?
You would also have to make the building much wider, and deeper to house the new equipment as well as what's there existing.
Could you do that? Within the existing disturbed area? And then again, I'm having a hard time finding an understanding of where the riparian buffer limit is relative to the easterly. I don't have a scale looking right on the screen, but it looks to me like.
As I said, it's the riparian buffer is smaller than the floodplain. The riparian buffer is not the ruling limit line the floodplain is, but it's still considered inside the riparian buffer as the floodplain extends out further than the riparian buffer. So my
You still need relief for disturbance within the riparian buffer,
Right,
even
my-
though it's within the floodplain.
correct.
Look at the exhibit I see that you have the exposed building sort of parallel to the easterly floodplain. And it's kind of close to the rear line and close to the side. Side line, 25, 30 feet. Then the front setback is 9. Correct. 90. Is there any possibility modifying the location of the proposed building to place it sort of where you're showing 3 ornamental trees here?
I see that, yes.
And a dozen or so arborvitae.
Correct.
Could you take that proposed building, move it to the southwest, get closer to Clover Place, and therefore not have to expand the driveway on the western side of the building, northwesterly side? Could you modify the location of that building to minimize the impact on the floodplain?
I do not think we would be able to avoid having to put a driveway in. Even if we moved it down, it's still.
Is there a driveway there?
Correct, but you parking area.
You're already asking for relief in the front side yard of setbacks. If I relocated the building, you still need relief from the front yard setback. Is that correct?
Yes.
You maintain that there's no way to modify the location of the proposed building to minimize the impact of the proposed pavement in the flood.
Not with reorienting the way that the building's pointing, and at that point, we were trying to avoid facing the entrance to the building to the residents.
But you can put buffers in. There's already a buffer, like just the pine trees on the
North arrow's on the top left corner.
There it is.
No problem. Yeah.
So yeah, so on the northeast side, where you're proposing the building, there's already a pine tree buffer, it looks like.
Yes.
That would be along the Heritage Creek.
Correct. That's correct.
So you maintain that there's no way to modify the location of the structure.
Not without having changed the way that the building's oriented and maybe potentially moving closer to the other property.
Still, section 195-17, Black 40 part. Section 195-117 of our ordinance, that's been barracks, this black criteria qualified. I'd like your testament. Okay. You can borrow mine if you want. Like this.
Well, with regard to subsection number 1, pertains to the unique physical circumstances or conditions, including irregularity, narrowness, or shallowness of the lot size or shape, or exceptional topographical or other physical conditions particular to the property, peculiar to the particular property. And that the unnecessary hardship includes such conditions. I believe that I covered that subject with Mr. Getz, but I'll be glad to do it again, please. Okay. Mr. Getz, before I ask you a question, I'd like you to read subsection 1 to yourself.
Okay.
All right, and can you address Mr. Wolf's inquiry with regard to what are the unique physical circumstances or conditions of this particular property, both in terms of its shape, its exceptional topographical or other physical conditions that are peculiar to this property that create a hardship?
Sure. There's the floodplain that is running throughout most of the parcel. There's the steep slope on the westerly side. There's the unnamed tributary of the Little Neshaminy Creek, as well as the culvert that is also on the site as well.
And if you will read subsection number 2 to yourself, please.
Okay.
Is there any possibility that the property can be developed in strict conformity with the requirements of the zoning ordinance, those requirements for which we are seeking relief?
No.
And why is that?
Again, due to the floodplain, as well as the physical size of the lot. Required setbacks to be 100 feet from all sides. There is not a location on this parcel that would allow for us to be conforming on all sides of 100 feet.
And is the authority created? Well, actually, before I answer that question, read subsection number 3.
Okay.
All right. And is the authority responsible for creating the hardship?
No.
What creates the hardship?
The physical characteristics of the lot.
Okay, now if you read subsection number 4, please. Will these requested variances in any way alter the essential character of the neighborhood or the district in which the property is located, or substantially or permanently impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent property, in order to be detrimental to the public welfare?
No, we tried to mitigate any issues that could arise with the residential area.
And read number 5 to yourself, please. In your opinion, will the variances authorized represent the minimum variances that will afford relief and will represent the least modification possible of the regulations at issue?
Yes.
Okay, and are these opinions that you hold within a reasonable degree of engineering service?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I have any further questions for you.
Okay, so let's go to the parties. Mr. Levin's questions for this witness.
So the holding tank, how much liquid would be one hold in terms of gallons
Approximately 3,500 gallons.
each?
Correct.
So 7,000 gallons total.
Approximately.
What are the chances of a spill?
Minimal.
How do you contain one if there is a spill?
On the site, there is a trench drain that would be installed inside of the building, and all the floors are sloped towards that drain.
So if there's a spill, it automatically goes into the wastewater system,
It would be discharged into the wastewater system. Correct.
the regular public wastewater system.
Correct.
What specific control system is being used on this in terms of hardware and software?
I need a little bit more.
Okay, let
clarity
me
on
rephrase
understand.
that. Are you buying this system from a vendor?
It would be procured.
What kind of control system does the vendor use? Is it Allen Bradley, Siemens, proprietary?
They're proprietary, then depends on the vendor.
You don't have any details right now?
Well, as it's a publicly bid project, there is an approved equal clause in any contract for publicly bid projects, so it's, as long as it meets the specifications, then it would be approved.
Okay, so what's usually used to monitor things like spills and air hazards?
Air hazards, there's no monitoring of air hazards for this type of equipment.
Okay, so what's used to monitor for issues, power outages, spills?
There's all sorts of interlocks and controls that would
We
monitor.
go to what system?
The Warminster Municipal Authority's, SCADA, which is Supervisory Data and Control Acquisition System.
How does it communicate with the state?
It would be through a PLC.
Okay, so the PLC is the local control system, correct?
Correct.
Who is the manufacturer of the PLC?
Again, it would depend on the vendor for the product.
So you don't have that information right now?
Well, the project's not out to bid, so we don't have that yet.
Okay. I'm just looking through. If there was an alarm, how long is the expected alarm response during both business and non-business hours?
Well, as the well sites could be controlled remotely, if there was an alarm, it could be shut down remotely very quickly. Regardless of on hours and off hours,
How is it monitored 24 hours a day?
through their supervisory data and control acquisition system.
Okay, is there a control room that somebody sits at 24 hours a day?
I believe that is the case, and everybody also has access through it remotely.
Access remotely is one thing, but how are the alarms pushed out to everybody?
They would be pushed out through the SCADA system,
What system?
the supervisory data and control acquisition system. Sorry, SCADA is an acronym.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have any idea what the projected sound levels for the systems within the building are?
Minimal.
Okay, I just want to back up a little first. So the well is staying, right? You're just gonna cap it off?
We're not capping the well's being, we're putting the PFAS treatment system in so that the well can be used.
Okay, so the new building has nothing to do with the well. It's just taking in water from the well, correct?
It's the treatment facility for the well.
So it's not really a well building. It's a PFAS treatment facility, correct?
It also houses the well equipment, the pump controls, motor, and such.
And how big are the tanks again in terms of gallons?
3,500 gallons.
So the proposal is to put 7,000 gallons of chemicals in the middle of a residential.
No, they're not chemicals. That's 7,000 gallons of water.
Well, how much resin? do these tanks?
How many cubic feet? I don't remember off the top of my head.
What is the backup power strategy for the site? How long can critical systems remain operational during power outage?
There was a generator, portable generator hookup. Loss of power would be a notification sent out to the operations staff. The operations staff is required to respond within a maximum of 4 hours.
Not 4 hours. Any idea how loud that generator is?
It's a portable generator. It wouldn't be that loud for that.
You're installing a portable generator? instead
No,
of
it's a
permanent?
portable hookup they would bring on site.
So it's not there at all?
No,
Okay, so it would take up to 4 hours to get backup power to the site in case of a problem?
potentially.
Potentially, okay. So if vendor service is required, what is expected lead time for emergency repairs or equipment failure?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
Does anybody at Warminster Municipal Authority have the technical capability to restore a PLC program if one fails or a battery dies? Will the facility include any air monitoring or PFAS particles? Operation. I'm sorry. Will the facility include air